Hello coin hunters, welcome to the Coin Riches channel. There are coins sitting in jars right now. Coins in old shoeboxes tucked under beds, coins rattling around in kitchen drawers, coins forgotten in the pockets of jackets that haven't been worn since the 90s. Most of those coins are worth exactly what they say they're worth. A penny is a cent. That's it. That's the whole story for the vast majority of them. But every so often, one of those pennies breaks every rule. Every so often, one of those tiny copper discs carries a secret that most people walk right past without ever knowing it was there. And today, we are talking about one of the most remarkable, most discussed, and most sought-after pennies in all of American numismatic history. We are talking about the 1969 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin, and by the time this video is over, I want you to look at every penny differently than you did before you pressed play. Let's start at the beginning, because to truly understand why this coin matters, you have to understand the era it came from. 1969 was not a quiet year. The United States was in the middle of one of the most turbulent, emotionally charged, culturally explosive periods in modern history. Men were preparing to walk on the moon. The Vietnam War was grinding on. Music was changing. Politics were shifting. The entire social fabric of the country felt like it was being pulled in a dozen different directions at once. And in the middle of all of that, the United States Mint was doing what it had always done. It was making coins. Millions and millions of coins. Pennies by the hundreds of millions. Because no matter how chaotic the world gets, commerce doesn't stop. People still need to buy things. Stores still need to make change. Life goes on, and so does the mint. The Denver Mint, which is identified by that small D mint mark on the coin, was one of 3 facilities producing Lincoln cents that year. The Philadelphia Mint and the San Francisco Mint were also in operation, but Denver was cranking out massive quantities of these coins to meet the demand of a country that was still very much a cash economy. In 1969, there was no swiping a card at the grocery store. There was no tapping your phone to a sensor. You handed over cash. You got change back. Pennies mattered in a very practical, very everyday sense that younger generations might struggle to fully appreciate. So the Denver Mint was busy. Very busy. And when mints are busy, when production targets are high and the presses are running hard, that's often when the most interesting things happen. That's often when errors slip through. That's often when the coins that would one day be worth thousands, or in certain cases, far more than that, end up in circulation without anyone realizing what they've just sent out into the world. Now let's talk about Abraham Lincoln himself for a moment, because his presence on this coin is not just decorative. It carries history and weight in a way that genuinely sets the Lincoln cent apart from almost every other American coin series. Lincoln has appeared on the 1-cent piece since 1909, making his portrait one of the longest-running designs in United States coinage history. That year, 1909, marked the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and President Theodore Roosevelt commissioned a redesign of the cent to honor the man many considered the nation's greatest leader. The sculptor Victor David Brenner created the portrait, and it was immediately beloved. Americans recognized something in Lincoln's face that resonated deeply. There was strength there, and sadness too. The weight of leadership. The cost of principle. Brenner captured something real, something human, and that image has endured through wars and recessions and revolutions in technology and culture. When you hold a 1969 Lincoln cent, you are holding a coin that connects directly to that tradition, a tradition over a century old. The obverse of the coin, which is the front face, shows Lincoln's portrait in profile facing right. Above his image, the word liberty is inscribed. To the left, in God we trust. The date 1969 appears on the right side, and just below the date, that small but enormously important letter D, identifying the coin as a product of the Denver Mint. The reverse of the coin carries the Lincoln Memorial, a design that was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look very closely at the reverse, you can actually see a tiny figure of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, making this the only United States coin in history to feature the same person on both sides. That detail alone is remarkable. It's a small thing, but it speaks to the extraordinary place Lincoln holds in American memory and identity. Now here is where we need to talk about condition, because condition is everything in the world of coin collecting. Two coins with the same date and the same mint mark can have wildly different values based entirely on how well they have survived the decades. A 1969 D penny that spent years in circulation, passed through thousands of hands, slid across countertops, rattled in cash registers, and sat in jars of loose change is going to show its age. The surfaces will be worn. The details will be soft. Lincoln's cheekbones won't stand out as sharply as they once did. The letters and numbers will be slightly flattened by the friction of everyday use. These coins still have value and historical interest, but they don't command the kind of numbers that make collectors' hearts race. What makes collectors' hearts race is a different kind of 1969 D penny entirely. What makes the serious money flow is a coin in exceptional, pristine, nearly untouched condition. Or better yet, a coin with a very specific, very rare error. Let's talk about errors, because this is where the story of the 1969 D Lincoln cent takes a turn that separates it from virtually every other penny conversation you've ever had. The United States Mint is, by any measure, one of the most precise manufacturing operations in the world. The tolerances are tight. The quality control is rigorous. The people who work there are professionals who take their craft seriously. And yet, errors happen. They have always happened. They will always happen, because perfection at industrial scale is an illusion. When you are striking hundreds of millions of coins, the mathematics of probability guarantee that some of them will be wrong. The question is always what kind of wrong, and whether that wrong survived long enough to make it out into the world before someone caught it. The most famous category of error associated with Lincoln cents from this era is the double die. And if you have spent any time at all in the coin collecting world, you have heard this term. But I want to make sure everyone watching truly understands what it means, because it is not what most people assume. A double die error does not happen because a coin gets struck twice by the press. That is a common misconception. What actually happens occurs during the manufacturing of the die itself, which is the hardened steel tool used to stamp the design into the coin. During the hubbing process, where the design is transferred from a master hub onto a working die, if the hub and the die shift even slightly between impressions, the resulting die will carry a doubled image. Every single coin struck from that die will then carry that doubling as a permanent feature. It is baked into the die. It cannot be rubbed off or worn away. It is part of the coin's identity from the moment it is struck. The 1969 South Lincoln Center, the San Francisco version, carries what is widely considered one of the most dramatic and valuable double die errors in all of American numismatic history. The doubling on those coins is so pronounced, so obvious to the naked eye, that even a casual observer can see it without any magnification. The date, the lettering, the motto, all of it appears doubled in a way that is startling and undeniable. Those coins, when found in top condition, have sold for extraordinary sums. But what about the Denver version from the same year? What about the 1969 D? This is where collectors and researchers have spent considerable time and energy, because the Denver coins from 1969 carry their own varieties, their own anomalies, their own reasons to look more closely. Not every 1969 D penny is the same, and the differences between them, small as they might appear to the untrained eye, are the differences between a coin worth face value and a coin worth a life-changing amount of money. Beyond double dies, there are other error types that can dramatically affect the value of a 1969 D penny. Off-center strikes occur when the coin blank is not properly positioned under the die at the moment of striking. The result is a coin where the design is shifted, sometimes dramatically, sometimes subtly, away from the center of the planchet. The degree of the off-center strike matters enormously. A coin that is 5% off-center is interesting. A coin that is 50% off-center, where nearly half the design is missing yet the date is still fully visible, that coin is genuinely exciting to collectors and can bring significant premiums. Then there are broad strikes, where the collar that normally contains the coin during striking is absent or fails, allowing the metal to spread outward in ways it normally wouldn't. There are lamination errors, where the metal itself separates or peels due to impurities or flaws in the original planchet. There are repunched mint marks, where the D was stamped more than once at a slightly different angle, leaving a ghost image of the mint mark visible beneath the final impression. Each of these errors transforms an ordinary 1969 D penny into something singular. Something that did not exist before and will never exist again in quite the same way. Collectors understand this on a level that goes beyond logic. There is something deeply human about the desire to hold something that is one of a kind, or close to it. Something that slipped through the system. Something the machines produced but never intended to produce. These coins feel almost like accidents of fate, and in a very real sense, that is exactly what they are. Now let's talk about the people who collect these coins, because understanding the collector community helps you understand why prices for exceptional specimens can reach levels that seem almost incomprehensible for something that started life as 1 cent. The serious Lincoln cent collector is a particular kind of enthusiast. Patient. Detail-oriented. Deeply knowledgeable. These are people who have spent years, sometimes decades, studying die varieties, learning to recognize subtle differences in the positioning of letters, training their eyes to spot the faintest traces of doubling or repunching. They carry magnifying loupes the way other people carry reading glasses. They keep meticulous records. They correspond with other collectors around the world. They attend shows and auctions, and they know the market with an intimacy that would surprise outsiders. What drives them is not purely financial, though the financial rewards can certainly be significant. What drives them is the hunt. The possibility that the next roll of pennies, the next handful of change, the next jar on the shelf at an estate sale might contain something extraordinary. That possibility never fully goes away, and it keeps the passion alive across years and decades. The 1969 D Lincoln cent sits squarely in the center of that passion. It is a coin that rewards study. A coin that separates the careful observer from the casual glancer. A coin that has surprised people before and will almost certainly surprise people again. Consider for a moment the story of a collector who finds an unusual coin in a collection they inherited from a parent or grandparent. They don't know what they have. Maybe they suspect something is different, because the coin looks odd to them, the letters seem slightly off, the date appears to have a faint shadow behind it. They take it to a local coin shop. The dealer leans in. Gets out a loupe. Goes very quiet for a moment. And then looks up with an expression that changes everything. That scene has played out in coin shops and at kitchen tables and at collector shows more times than anyone can count. And every single time it does, it is a reminder that the extraordinary is sometimes hiding right inside the ordinary, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the patience to find it. So let's bring everything together now, because we have covered the history, we have covered the errors, we have covered the collectors and their passion, and now it is time to talk about what you actually need to do if you believe you might have a 1969 D Lincoln cent that is worth serious attention. Because knowledge without action is just trivia. And the whole point of understanding what makes a coin valuable is so that you can apply that understanding in the real world. Starting with the coins you already have access to right now, the first thing you need to do is find your 1969 D pennies. Go through that jar. Open that shoebox. Check those old coffee cans full of loose change that have been sitting in the garage since the last time anyone thought to look. Pull out every penny you can find and sort them by year. When you get to 1969, check for the D mint mark just below and to the right of the date on the obverse. If you see that D, set the coin aside and treat it with care. Do not clean it. This cannot be stressed strongly enough. Do not clean it. Do not rub it. Do not polish it. Do not run it under water with soap and a cloth. Cleaning a coin, even with the best of intentions, destroys its surface at a microscopic level and can reduce its value by a staggering percentage. Professional graders can spot a cleaned coin immediately, and a cleaned coin that might have been worth thousands in original condition can be worth a fraction of that once it has been altered. Leave the coin exactly as it is. The second thing you need to do is examine it carefully. Get a magnifying glass, or better yet, a jeweler's loupe with at least 10 times magnification. Hold the coin under a strong, direct light source, ideally a single point light that you can tilt and angle to create shadows across the coin's surface. Look at the date. Look at the lettering. Look at In God We Trust. Look at liberty. What you are looking for is any sign of doubling. A shadow behind the letters. A slight thickening of the numerals. Any area where the design appears to have been impressed more than once at a slightly different position. If you see something that makes you look twice, that is significant. Trust your instincts and take the next step. The third thing you need to do is get a professional opinion. Not from a friend. Not from an online forum, though forums can be a useful starting point for education. From a certified, professional numismatist or from one of the major third-party grading services. The two most respected names in coin grading in the United States are the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company. Both organizations employ expert graders who examine coins under controlled conditions using professional equipment. When they grade a coin, they assign it a numerical grade on a scale from 1 to 70, and they encapsulate it in a sealed, tamper-evident holder that protects the coin and certifies its authenticity and grade. This process is called slabbing, and a slabbed coin carries a level of credibility in the marketplace that a raw, ungraded coin simply cannot match. If you have a 1969 D penny that you believe might be exceptional, getting it professionally graded is not an optional step. It is the essential step, because here is the truth about rare coins in today's market. Buyers at the highest levels of the hobby are not going to take your word for it. They are not going to trust their own eyes without verification. They want the assurance of a third-party grade from a respected service, and they will pay significantly more for a coin that has been certified than for one that has not. The grading process costs money, yes. It takes time, yes. But for a coin that might be worth what we are about to discuss, that cost and that time are completely and utterly justified. And now let's talk about value, because this is the moment you have been waiting for, the number that puts everything into perspective. When we talk about the 1969 D Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin in truly exceptional condition, in a state of preservation that collectors call mint state, with strong luster and sharp details and surfaces that tell the story of a coin that somehow escaped the grind of circulation entirely, the value climbs into territory that makes people stop and read the number twice. When we talk about a 1969 D penny with a confirmed, professionally certified error, particularly a dramatic double die variety or a significant off-center strike with the full date visible, we are talking about a coin that occupies a category all its own in the Lincoln cent series. We are talking about a coin that serious collectors pursue with the same intensity they might bring to any significant rarity. The value of a 1969 D Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny, when it presents itself in the right condition with the right characteristics, has reached $101,000. $101,000 for a coin that started its life worth exactly 1 cent. That number is not a rumor. It is not wishful thinking. It is the market speaking with clarity about what rarity and condition and historical significance mean when they come together in a single small disc of copper. It is the market confirming what experienced collectors have known for years, that the 1969 D Lincoln cent is not just a penny. It never really was just a penny. Think about that for a moment. Think about every jar of change you have ever walked past without looking twice. Think about every penny you have ever dropped into a take-a-penny dish at a convenience store counter. Think about every handful of coins you have ever shoved into your pocket without a second glance. The lesson of the 1969 D Lincoln cent is not just about one coin. It is about attention. It is about the rewards that come to people who slow down, who look carefully, who take the time to understand what they are holding before they decide it has no value. The greatest finds in numismatic history did not happen because someone got lucky in the traditional sense. They happened because someone knew what to look for. Someone had taken the time to learn. Someone had watched videos like this one and read and studied and built up the knowledge that allowed them to recognize something extraordinary when it appeared in front of them. That knowledge is available to anyone who wants it. It does not require a degree or a fortune or a lifetime of experience. It requires curiosity and patience and the willingness to look at ordinary things with extraordinary attention. So here is your challenge. Before you go to bed tonight, find your pennies. Sort through them. Pull out the 1969 D coins and give them the careful, respectful examination they deserve. You may find nothing unusual, and that is perfectly fine. But you might find something that makes your heart beat a little faster. You might find something with a shadow behind the letters that you cannot quite explain. You might find something that sends you reaching for your phone to call a coin dealer or a grading service. And if that happens, remember this video. Remember that a penny found its way from a mint in Denver in 1969 through decades of time and history and chanced to land in front of you for a reason. The 1969 D. Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny is proof that value is not always visible at first glance. It is proof that history lives inside the smallest and most overlooked objects. And it is proof that the people who pay attention, who take the time to look and learn and understand, are sometimes rewarded in ways they never expected. $101,000. 1 cent. The difference between them is knowledge. And now you have it.